He was the mage of the hero's party who went to fight the Demon King, but when his exhausted party was overwhelmed by demons, he decided to stay back and fight till the last breath, not realizing when 10 years passed and he became the strongest teenager in the world. During the final battle against the demons in the demonic rift, the hero's party, including Eric the hero, Goran the warrior, and Luck the mage, thought that they had finally pushed back the demons enough that they could return back to their dimension. Unfortunately for them, the Demon King escaped after being gravely injured, and they weren't able to finish him off completely. But they injured him enough that they won't have to worry about him for a long time while he licks his wounds. While Goran and Eric were discussing how badly they want to go back home, they notice that Luck is still completely engrossed with the Demon King's hand that they managed to chop off, as he really wants to take it back to their dimension as a souvenir of sorts, but doesn't know how to carry such a huge thing with him. His two teammates laugh at him, and Goran jokes about how Luck hasn't been able to find a girlfriend because of his weird interests. Luck claims that he doesn't need a girlfriend, while Eric talks about how he can't wait to be back with his family as he hasn't seen his newborn baby yet. Goran replies that it's been so many years that he doesn't even know whether his daughter would recognize him anymore. Goran tells Luck that it's time that he should also start a family now, as there is nothing better than the feeling of someone waiting for you back at home. Luck thinks about it, but decides that he is not built for all that family life, and they laugh about it. Just when everything seemed to be going well, they suddenly notice a bunch of red eyes appear in the darkness, and the party is horrified as they realize that a huge horde of demons has appeared out of nowhere. There's no point of despairing though, as the only way they can get out of here is to fight the demons and somehow defeat them. Otherwise, they will never be seeing their families ever again. And certain death looks more likely at the moment. Luck stands in front of them with his head down as he realizes that they are too battle-weary at this moment, and there is absolutely no way that they are getting out of this situation alive. Suddenly, a smile comes on his face as he creates a bunch of magical circles in the air, and he tells both Goran and Eric to leave this dimension and go back to Earth. Both Eric and Goran refuse to do anything like that and leave Luck alone. But Luck claims that the Demon King hasn't been defeated yet, and there is a possibility that he might rise up again after some years. If that happens, they would need the hero's strength to defeat him, which means Eric can't die here. Goran claims that he is a warrior and not the hero, so he is staying and fighting with Luck. The mage looks back, claiming that Goran's family and his little daughter are waiting for him back home, and it wouldn't be nice of him to keep them waiting. Goran and Eric both refuse to return back to Earth, but Luck already knew that this might be the case, so he uses his magic and creates a rocky barrier to stop Goran or Eric from following him. Goran tries to break through the barrier but fails. Luck tells them to leave as soon as possible as they have families waiting for them, while for him, they are the only family that he has known. He promises to catch up with them soon and tells them to go ahead, knowing very well that he won't be leaving this place alive. Eric and Goran continue to try and break the barrier that Luck had created but fail, while Luck screams at them to leave while he moves towards the enemies approaching him. He gets ready for a fight, and after fighting continuously for days, he finally manages to defeat the first wave of never-ending enemies. He realizes that he is at his limits and can't fight anymore. But just then, a demon general arrives at the scene and grabs him by the throat. She uses Drain Touch skill on him to completely deplete any remaining mana from him and then throws him on the ground. Just before she was about to end his life, he turns around and uses the same Drain Touch skill that she used on him and completely sucks out all the magical energy from the general, killing her immediately while at the same time replenishing his own supplies. He walks up, picks the sword that was dropped by the general, as another wave of enemies appear, and he gets ready for another round. Time passes by as he continues fighting. Days turns into weeks and weeks into months, and after a time he completely loses the track of time. He just remembers that he has been fighting for a very, very long time. Even when he was sleeping, he would cast a spell on himself so his body would continue fighting. While he recovers, after what seemed like eternity, he finally defeats all the monsters in the area. He can't believe that it might be over and feels numb, when suddenly a huge fireball appears near him. He manages to block it with his mana shield, but realizes that only the Demon King could use an attack this strong. He turns around and smiles at the Demon King, asking how did he regenerate so quickly, as he thought it would take the Demon King several years to recover his strength. Luck knows that he can't afford to fight a ranged battle, as the Demon King's magic would soon overpower him, so he immediately closes in the distance and tries to bamboozle him by using the Drain Touch ability, but to his surprise, the Demon King has applied a protective enchantment over his body to prevent anything like this. He takes advantage of the momentary confusion in Luck and delivers a blow that sends Luck flying in the air. Luck somehow finds his balance again and realizes that the wound is serious, and if he doesn't recover soon, he could be in deep trouble. Before he could even think of a plan though, the Demon King attacks him once again, forcing him to block it with his sword. But the Demon King's blade is too powerful, and Luck's sword shatters into tiny pieces, claiming that he is a sorcerer anyways and doesn't need a sword. With that, he uses his Hellfire skill, which hits the Demon King dead on and disorients him. Luck uses this opportunity to close in the distance and uses both his Hellfire spell and the Drain Touch spell at the same time. Knowing that the Demon King could only defend one with his barrier at a time, his strategy works, and he manages to defeat the Demon King, but due to some magical malfunction, his body regresses into that of a teenager, which he doesn't seem to notice as he comes out of the dust and grabs the Demon King's sword before rejoicing at his victory. He finally returns back to Earth, without much clothing and without his adventurer's card, which got burned up during the fight. He walks towards the capital and is stopped by the guards, who give him some clothes to wear before letting him in. He decides to head for Goran's place straight up to meet up with his old friend, and is shocked to see the huge mansion that Goran managed to build for himself. He knocks at the gate and a butler answers, asking whether he has an appointment to meet with Goran. Luck shakes his head, claiming that he is Goran's friend Luck, but the butler scoffs at that, claiming that they get drunk idiots like him all the time, and closes the door. Annoyed, Luck leaves the area and decides to head for the Adventurers Guild in the hopes of getting his adventurer's card reissued, and on the way, notices a statue of a sorcerer that he doesn't remember seeing when he was here the last time. He asks a random passerby about who the statue is for, and the passerby is astonished that he doesn't know who the statue is for, but thinks that this boy must be from the boonies and has just came to the capital. He explains that the statue represents Saint Luck, the sorcerer who held back an entire demon horde all alone 10 years ago, saving the entire world. Luck looks at the statue and realizes that he is talking about him. He can't believe that he was fighting for an entire decade without any rest, and realizes that Goran and Eric must have thought that he was dead, and that's why they had the statue commissioned. He decides to be on his way towards the Adventurers Guild, where he enters, and immediately a bully tries to find easy pickings on him and starts making fun of him. To his surprise, Luck completely ignores him and moves straight to the reception. The bully gets annoyed at that, but suddenly notices the warrior Goran beside him. Luck turns around to see Goran bawling, and without a word Goran grabs him and takes him to a private room. He hugs Luck, claiming that he can't believe that Luck is back and that he missed him dearly. Luck starts eating a bunch of food, realizing that he hasn't eaten anything for the past 10 years, and explains that he stayed alive using the Drain Touch ability that he learned from one of the demon generals. Without that ability, he couldn't have survived. Goran immediately takes away the food that he was eating, claiming that he shouldn't have solid food after a long fast, and orders his butler to get him some rice gruel. The butler disappears, and a little while later the rice gruel arrives, but the person who brought it was none other than Eric the hero. Eric himself grabs Luck and starts crying alongside Goran, while Luck wonders what is he supposed to do with two middle-aged crying men. Eric pulls himself together and then asks Luck how has he not aged. In fact, he looks younger than before. Luck doesn't think that's possible, but when he looks at himself in the mirror, he realizes that they are telling the truth. He thinks about it and claims that it might be possible that he absorbed some of Demon King's energy after defeating him. The two party members are again shocked, asking whether Luck actually defeated the Demon King. Luck smiles, claiming that the Demon King came back after being completely revived, but Luck managed to defeat him. Eric is shocked. He claims that if that's true, then Luck deserves a huge reward, as the kingdom has been beefing up its military in the fear that the Demon King will invade their land sooner or later. And as the king, Eric must pay Luck back for his noble deeds. Luck is shocked to hear and asks whether they mean to tell him that Eric is the king right now. Eric smiles, claiming that the previous king gave him the kingship for defending the country against the Demon King invasion, and Goran was made the Grand Master of the Adventurers Guild. Eric claims that he gave Luck a noble's title and made him Archduke after his death, and also had a statue of him constructed in the middle of the city. Luck claims that if he suddenly comes back to life, it would be a little confusing for the public, so he proposes to let Luck stay dead. Instead, he decides to start over from scratch as an F-ranked warrior with the name of Luck. Goran helps him get the adventurer's card, and with that he leaves the mansion for now. The butler rushes up to him and apologizes for turning him away when he first came here, but Luck tells him not to worry about it. From there, he directly goes to the Adventurers Guild and hands over a quest for exterminating a bunch of goblins. The receptionist declines at first, claiming that he is just an F-ranked warrior and he can't take on the goblins alone. She has no idea that he is an SS-ranked mage in reality. but he can't convince her otherwise. Just then a party of 2 approaches him and claims that they can work together on the quest. The receptionist immediately agrees, and Luck thinks that training newbies is also important, so he agrees. Ari the boy is a fire mage, while Ginny, his little sister, is an archer. Along with them, he leaves for his first adventure as a new adventurer and travels to small villages enjoying the scenery. They continue tracking down the goblins, and Luck realizes that Ginny is actually a pretty good scout as she manages to locate the den of the goblins. But the thing that she is miscalculating is how many goblins there are in the den. Goblins are smart creatures, and they often erase their own footprints to confuse their trackers. At first, Luck thinks of telling Ginny about it, but then he lets it be as people learn from their failures. Once inside the den, Luck tells Ari and Ginny to provide covering fire for him while he deals with the goblins. He rushes in and decapitates Watcher outside before rushing in and erasing one goblin after the other while Ginny and Ari provide cover. After a while, both Ginny and Ari are completely spent. Ginny realizes that there are way more goblins than they anticipated, and she doesn't have many arrows remaining, while Ari is also pretty spent on mana. Ari makes the right decision to back off for now, but just then they suddenly hear a loud roar from inside. They peek in to see a huge hobgoblin inside, and while Luck was trying to understand what's happening, a beast girl comes out of nowhere and attacks the goblin, who manages to block the attack. The beast girl seems more annoyed than worried at the hobgoblin as she screams at him to get out of the way as if he is an NPC. She approaches him again from a different angle and dodges the goblin's attack easily before using the opportunity to land a slash on his back. Unfortunately, the slash wasn't deep enough to puncture any major veins, so the goblin still stands. Ari and Ginny are impressed by the beast girl as they haven't seen anyone fight like this before. The beast girl notices the party at the mouth of the cave and screams at them that if they want to escape, now is the time. Luck realizes that it's the truth, and he orders both Ari and Ginny to make a run for it outside and beware of surprise goblin attacks. At first, Ari was a little hesitant, but he realized that he might become a burden more than help, so he took Ginny and moved away immediately. The beast girl continues fighting against the goblin, but seems to be having some trouble. Luck casually asks whether she needs some help, and she is surprised to see that he didn't run away with his friends. She tells him to escape, but he claims that there is no need for that. The beast girl replies that she doesn't need her help and can deal with his underling herself. But Luck replies that she seems to be losing the match. This angers the girl, and she asks whether Luck thinks that she is weaker than this goblin. And Luck replies that he doesn't know much about her, but knows that his sword is weaker. Right at that moment, her sword shatters into pieces after taking continuous blows from the goblin's club. The girl angrily claims that Luck should worry about himself and takes out her backup sword before rushing straight at the goblin. To her surprise, the goblin finds the right moment and manages to disarm her with a single blow from his club, leaving her shocked. Before the goblin could finish her off though, Luck jumps in front of her and claims that he is done watching. The girl tries to tell him to run away, but Luck simply takes out his sword while looking distracted and talking to her. The goblin screams angrily, which annoys Luck, so he uses his sword to slice the goblin lord into 5 pieces before the beast girl could even blink. She is beyond shocked and can't believe what she just saw. Her attitude immediately changes as she gets on her knees and introduces herself as the daughter of the chieftain of the beast clan. She thanks him for saving her life and asks who he is. Luck proudly claims that he is just an F-ranked adventurer who was passing by, but Jo refuses to believe that. Luck shows her his identity card, and she has no choice but to believe that he is an F-ranked adventurer, but is confused about why Luck seems so proud of being an F-ranked adventurer. Moreover, his strength is beyond abnormal for an F-ranked adventurer. He asks Jo what rank is she, and she replies that she is a B-ranked adventurer and apologizes for telling him to run away before, since now she feels stupid. Luck tells her that she made the perfect call as she thought that he was also a beginner. He pulls her back up to her feet and asks what lurks deeper in the dungeon. She seems a little taken by surprise and pretends that she doesn't know what is he talking about. Luck reminds her that she was calling the goblin an underling, which means that there is something hiding even deeper inside the cave. Jo looks uncertain about revealing the whole truth to Luck, so he claims that he would be leaving then since his job was only to exterminate the goblins. But if there is something even stronger and more dangerous inside, she should tell him so he could deal with it before it hurts the villagers. Jo claims that it won't be that easy since the monster that is hiding inside the cave is a vampire lord. It makes more sense to him now, Vampire lords are unusually difficult monsters to deal with as they have extremely high vitality and can turn into a bat or a mist on command, making the fights against them that much confusing. He asks Jo why did she think that she could take on the vampire lord himself when she was having trouble dealing with a mere goblin lord. This embarrasses her a little, and as they walk deeper into the cave, she explains that her tribe has always fought against the vampires for generations. During the last battle, the vampires were almost defeated and only one of them remained, but that one turned out to be the vampire lord himself, and he managed to get away after severely wounding her father. She claims that she will restore honor to his father's name by destroying this vampire lord, but still tells Luck that he should back off right now, as going any further would be too dangerous for him. Luck tells her not to worry about it, and moreover, she can't fight a vampire without a weapon, so he hands over the sword that he took from the demon lord himself. Jo is confused and asks what is he going to use, and Luck replies with a smile that he is very strong, even barehanded, so she shouldn't worry about him. A while later, when they were walking through the endless maze of tunnels, a bunch of goblins attack them, but Luck has no issues dealing with them as he kicks and punches them to death without breaking a sweat. Jo is beyond impressed as she claims that she can't believe that he is so strong even without any weapons. This makes Luck happy as he has never heard it before. Earlier, he used to fight with Goran and Eric, and while he was just a magician, those two were abnormally strong fighters, and he was just left to offer support most of the time. But because he fought close quarters against the demon army's horde for literally a decade, his martial arts abilities have been expanded, and he is 1,000 times better than he ever was in hand-to-hand combat. Soon they finally break down the door to the vampire's lair, and Jo's eyes immediately fill up with hatred as she bare her fangs at the vampire, claiming that she will end his life today. But the vampire lord simply laughs at her, claiming that how could she thinking that she could scratch him when her father, who is much stronger than her, couldn't do anything. Jo promises to end the vampire's life with her own hands, while Luck realizes that the vampire is intentionally commanding the goblins to hide their footprints to lure in adventurers so he could feast on them. The vampire smiles, claiming that the human is not too stupid, so he can act as a servant for him. He reminds Jo that while beastmen are immune to a vampire's gaze, he can turn any human into his slave just by one look. Jo tries to shield Luck and force him out, but it's too late, and the vampire uses his gaze at Luck and controls his mind. He calls Luck and orders him to move forward, and Luck does so without any hesitation. Jo is lost, as she blames herself for bringing Luck down to such a dangerous place. The vampire laughs as Luck walks up to him and asks Jo whether she would like to die by his hand or Luck's, and starts laughing at the despairing girl. Right then, Luck balls his fist and delivers a punch so strong that the vampire swirls in the air like a Beyblade before falling to the ground, bleeding from his mouth. The vampire can't believe it, and claims that he is sure that he controlled Luck's mind, but he replies that he has a very high affinity against mental debuffs, so it's not very easy to control him. He then pokes at the vampire, claiming that maybe he is just a lesser vampire and just pretending to be a vampire lord. This maddens the vampire lord as he rises back up again and lunges at Luck at the speed of lightning. But Luck is somehow faster as he delivers a roundhouse kick which blasts the vampire back into the wall. Luck makes fun of him even more, claiming that for a lesser vampire, he is not bad. The vampire lord gets enraged and uses one of the strongest attacks from his arsenal, but Luck dodges it effortlessly before buffing himself up with his magic and rushing at the vampire lord and using the Drain Touch ability to completely suck him dry. The vampire lord realizes that he can't win like this and tries to disappear, but Jo wouldn't let it happen again. She rushes at him and uses the demon lord's sword to chop him in half. The vampire is shocked and confused since he can't seem to be able to regenerate himself. From his ashes, Jo picks out a medallion and explains that when a vampire lord continues killing people, cursed energy builds up inside him in the form of a medallion. The vampire without his body continues yapping, as he claims that they would never be able to live in peace as the medallion will one day open the demonic rift once again, and out of it hundreds and thousands of demons will come pouring out alongside the demon king in the vanguard, and then the dark lords will come forth, and that would be the day when humanity will end. Luck thinks about how the demonic rift works, as they still don't know how to open one from their side, but just to be sure he tosses the medallion in the air and cuts it in half, absorbing all the demonic energy from it. The vampire is shocked, while Luck continues that even if the demonic rift opens, nothing will come out of it as he has already killed all the demons there. Just then, the vampire realizes that the sword in his hand belongs to the demon king himself. He realizes that the person standing in front of him is none other than the great sage Saint Luck the Mage who destroyed the demons. Before the vampire could utter another word, Luck cuts his head in half, destroying him completely. On their way up from the cave, Mage figures out that Luck is actually the great sage himself, and Luck begs her to keep it a secret. Back in the city, they meet up with Ari and Ginny before heading over to the guild to submit everything that they collected. After that, they all part ways, and Ginny hands over half the medallion to Luck to bring Goran up to speed about the threat that the vampire made. Luck goes to Goran's mansion and immediately gets yelled at for disappearing for 3 days without any message, but Luck calms him down and explains that the Demon King and his demons were apparently just the vanguard and the real dark gods are still planning an invasion. Goran promises to investigate it thoroughly, while Luck decides to get some sleep. As soon as he opens the door, though, he comes face to face with a blonde teenage girl who doesn't say a thing and just leaves. Goran introduces her as Chelys, his daughter, and claims that she already has the abilities of a B-ranked adventurer and wants to become an adventurer. But he has refused to give consent, as he thinks that she isn't wary enough to know the dangers. Unfortunately though, she would soon turn 15 and wouldn't need parental consent to enroll as an adventurer, so he begs him to keep an eye on her. The next morning, Luck observes Chelys practicing and realizes that she has definitely inherited her dad's skills, but has no idea why is she staring daggers at him every time they meet. Later on the breakfast table, while he was chowing down on some grub, she sits in front of him and straight up accuses him of being her father's bastard illegitimate child. Luck spits out his milk on hearing this and asks Chelys if she stretched before doing the mental gymnastics that led her to this assumption. Chelys is confident that his shocked reaction proves that she is right, and she has 3 reasons that led her to believe that. First, Goran let Luck into the house only after her mom left. Second, Goran seems to be really happy that Luck is here. And the third point is that he was worried sick for the 3 days that Luck went missing. Luck realizes that he can't talk sense into Chelys, and she gets sad that her father needed another child when he had her. Luck feels that he might be the reason that Goran's family is torn apart, and then he looks at the butler, who is aggressively begging him with his eyes to do something about this situation. Luck decides to reveal a little bit of truth to Chelys and says that Goran was worried about him because he is a friend he is meeting after 10 years. He adds that he is a proper adventurer who just looks way younger than his age. He thinks that Chelys is smart enough to figure out the truth from these hints, but the only thing she concludes is that Luck is her illegitimate elder brother. Luck spits his milk again on hearing this and tells Chelys that he is not her elder brother. She says that he must be her younger brother in that case and tells him to call her Big Sis from now on. Luck begins pulling his hair because he can't cope with how delulu this girl is. He pulls out his adventurer card and asks her to read it and tell where does she see Goran's last name on it. Chelys thinks that it means Goran doesn't acknowledge Luck as his son, and that makes her pity him. She tells Luck that he hasn't done anything bad to deserve this treatment, and asks him to leave this matter to his big sis because she will get their dad to acknowledge him. Luck tells her that she doesn't need to do it, but Chelys is determined to do right by her little brother, even though her mom might divorce her dad for that. Luck is in a pinch now, and he can't let his friend's life be ruined because his daughter has a good imagination. He first asks the butler to leave, and then asks Chelys if she can keep a secret. She tells him that she can keep any secret that her little brother has, so Luck removes the concealment on his adventurer's card. He shows it to Chelys and says that since she is Goran's daughter, she should understand who he is now. Chelys can't process that the boy in front of her is the great sage, but the only thing she is concerned about is that the great sage is her little brother. She says that she always thought the statue of the great sage looked a bit like her father, and it must be because they are father and son. That is what offends Luck the most, and he tells her that the statue doesn't look similar to Goran at all. Chelys still doesn't budge from her stance that he is her brother, and she drives Luck to madness before realizing his true identity. Once she figures that out, she kneels before him and apologizes for everything she said. But Luck doesn't even have the energy to respond to that. He tells her that his real identity is a secret, and then realizes why Goran doesn't want her to become an adventurer. However, he can also see that Chelys has a strong will, and that is important to become a good adventurer. He decides to take her out on an easy quest to give her some experience, and he is not surprised to learn that she is already registered with the guild. She is excited about every little thing, and he is glad that her first time is with him, because otherwise she would have taken a random mission and gone out on her own. He takes a break near a river to let her splash around in the water, and then lets her talk to the villagers about the quest so that she feels she is doing important work. Chelys talks to an old villager who tells her that lately they have spotted mythical beasts like cyclops and dragons around, but surprisingly there has been no casualty. Luck is surprised to hear that there is a dragon nearby, but all humans are still safe. Either way, he says that if a dragon is involved, This is not an E-rank job, and Chellies starts thinking hard about what it can be. Luck asks her to open her mind and gives her a hint that the guild must have decided that the mythical beasts don't actually exist around the area. She thinks for a while before realizing that the mythical beasts are just illusions, and Luck agrees with her. They head to the area where people spotted the mythical beasts, and suddenly a dust storm erupts in front of them, revealing a frightening dragon. When it ends, Chellies freaks out on seeing it and asks Luck to assure her that this is just an illusion because it looks quite real. Luck agrees with her, saying that the dragon feels like it has a real body, and it's also radiating heat. But in the end, it is just a highly accurate illusion. He asks Chellies to attack it, and she puts her faith in his words as she charges ahead. The dragon tries to swat her with its tail, but Chellies dodges that and climbs on top of it instead. The illusory dragon tries to shake her off next, but Chellies attacks it with her full strength. The dragon blocks her attack with its claws, but she doesn't stop attacking it. Luck is impressed by her skills and thinks that she is indeed as skilled as a B-rank adventurer. However, what concerns him is how durable the fake dragon is. He can tell that it is a giant lump of mana that has taken the shape of a dragon, and that's why Chellies can hit it with her sword. Suddenly, the dragon charges its fire breath and attacks her, and Chellies starts rolling around the ground to put out the fire. Luck takes that as his cue to join the fight. He flies towards the dragon and uses his ability to learn the high-level illusion technique. After that, he uses Drain Touch to absorb the mana powering the dragon just around the time he pays attention to the screaming Chellies. He tells her that she can stop rolling around now, and she is surprised when she realizes that she didn't get burned. Luck reminds her that the dragon was just an illusion, and she can't defeat it if she fights it head-on. Chellies says that he should have told that to her earlier, and then asks how can they defeat an illusion. Luck replies that they need to find and defeat the illusionist, and if they can't do that, they should just run away. Chellies says that only cowards run away, but Luck tells her that it beats dying. With that, he turns his attention towards the forest and tells the illusionist to come out because they need to talk. He assures them that they don't want to hurt him because he hasn't hurt the villagers, and he is just trying to keep them away for some reason. Suddenly, a child's voice replies that he has something to protect, and he can't move it away from this place. Luck says that it is going to be a problem because they will have to tell the guild they failed in that case, even though he personally doesn't mind it. Chellies starts rattling him on hearing that because she doesn't want to start her career with a failure, but Luck tells her not to mind the small failures. She starts panicking, so Luck turns his attention to the illusionist and says that if they fail, the guild will send some other adventurers who might not be the listening type. He says that if they attack the illusionist, he will suffer greatly, so it is better that he cooperates now. The illusionist accepts his words and comes out of hiding. As he reaches close to Luck and Chellies, she sees his horns and gets wary because he is a fiend. Meanwhile, Luck has no problem with that, and he praises the boy for his skilled illusions. He introduces himself and Chellies, and then the fiend boy introduces himself as Lucci. Chellies whispers into Luck's ear and asks if fiends aren't supposed to be evil, and he tells her that it is just a misconception. He tells her that fiends are powerful mages and fighters, but they don't really like violence. He asks Lucci what is he trying to protect, and he decides to lead them to it. On the way, Luck asks him why did he decide to trust them, and Lucci says that his illusions didn't work on Luck, so he must be a much stronger sorcerer than him, despite that he didn't try to investigate things by force, so he decided to trust him. Lucci leads them to an ancient ruin and then enters a room that he blocked with a door. He asks permission from someone he calls Lord Jerberga, and as Luck follows him to see what is going on, he is shocked to see a majestic-looking rooster sitting on its nest. Chellies comes over in a second, and she asks if the fiend boy was trying to hide a chicken. Lucci loses his cool on hearing that and tells Chellies that she will treat Lord Jerberga with respect. While they are fighting, Luck asks Lucci to explain what exactly is Jur, and he says that it is a serafowl, which is a chicken with divine power. Well, Chellies completely ignores the divine part and says that it is just a chicken after all. Luck shuts her mouth before Lucci turns against her and asks him to explain more about Jur's divine power. Lucci gladly explains that Jur's ancestor was the original serafowl that his tribe worshipped, and he is said to have awakened the entire world with its crowing. He says that a serafowl has the power to draw a line between things that are meant to be kept separate, like day and night. That power can also prevent things to move from one world to another, and Luck realizes that the divine chicken can close dimensional rifts. He immediately remembers what the vampire lord said about the demons and dark gods that would come pouring into this world through the dimensional rifts, and that makes him realize that vampires are targeting Jur. Lucci affirms, saying that his tribe lived on a mountain range far far towards the north, but one day, they were attacked by a group of vampires. His entire village was wiped out, and he was the only survivor. The village chief entrusted Jur to him, and he ran all the way here to keep him safe. Luck asks if there was any particular reason he chose to stay in these ruins, and Lucci says that the chief told him that it was an ancient temple with a barrier to repel vampires. However, he has been attacked various times already. Luck checks the ruins and tells him that there is no barrier here. He asks Lucci to come with him to the capital because they can keep Jur safe there. He then takes out his sword and stabs the ground with it, telling Lucci that he will keep the divine chicken safe. He declares that he has the Demon King's sword because he defeated him, and Lucci realizes that he is talking to the great sage Luck. Chalice keeps hyping up Luck, but he kneels down instead, swearing on his life that he will protect Jur, the Seraphal, with everything he has got, because he is the only one capable of saving the world from a demon invasion. Luck tells Lucci that he did good, and thanks him and his tribe on the behalf of the entire world for keeping Jur safe till now. Lucci starts crying on hearing that, and remembers the happy days with his tribe. He feels proud that the great sage thanked him, and the Seraphal he raised with his tribe is going to protect the world. With that, they start heading out, and Chalice reminds Luck that he is a freeloader at their house, and asks him if he thinks Goran will let him keep a pet. Lucci lashes out on her again for calling Jur a pet, when suddenly Luck notices something. He pushes Lucci away and grabs the vampire who was trying to attack him by the throat. He punches it away as more vampires arrive, and Luck concludes that the vampires are indeed targeting the divine chicken. He decides not to let them leave alive and pierces them with magic arrows before setting them ablaze with hellfire. However, one of the vampires was hiding nearby, and it starts escaping by turning into bats, but Jur notices him and crows loudly, turning it to ash mid-air. Both Luck and Chalice are surprised on seeing Jur's powers, and Lucci explains that when the vampire started to transform, Jur turned him into dust because in front of his powers, nothing can exist mid-transformation. However, his powers work only when the vampires transform, because then he can draw a boundary between their two states. With that, they resume their journey home, and Luck finds the beast girl Jur waiting for him outside the gate. She is happy to see him, but that makes Chalice jealous. She ignores her claim of being Luck's apprentice and whispers in his ears that she has something important to tell him. Luck takes her to his room to talk, and there, Jur tells him that vampires are cooking something big, and a vampire high lord, who is like a king of vampire lords, is leading them. Luck thinks about the situation and realizes that a vampire high lord is a problematic opponent and has powers on par with that of a demon. He knows that a fight against the vampire high lord will lead to some casualty on his side as well, and asks Jur what her tribesmen are planning to do. She claims that her dad is still injured from his previous encounter with just a vampire lord, so she is going to these tribe meetings in his stead, and has constantly spoken up against a direct attack. But the remaining members are not realizing how dangerous the job is, and she is afraid that they will recklessly attack the vampire high lord and get wiped out, since they weren't even able to deal with a single vampire lord. Luck agrees with that, as a vampire high lord is much stronger than an average vampire lord. But Jur claims that she also had another issue that she wanted to talk about. She claims that it might sound dumb, but they must find a certain all-powerful chicken with the ability to close dimensional rifts and destroy vampires mid-transformation. She looks at Luck's face and immediately starts apologizing, claiming that she realizes it sounds dumb, but it's really important to find that chicken, as all the vampires are currently looking for that chicken as well. To her surprise, Luck claims that he completely believes her, and in fact she has already met the chicken. Jur is completely confused. She asks what the hell is he even talking about, so he simply gets up from the bed and moves towards the door to his room. Before pulling it in immediately, Chalice, who was trying to listen in on their conversation, rolls in through the door, apologizing to them for eavesdropping, while Lucci walks in as well, claiming that he tried telling her not to eavesdrop. Luck ushers them in and introduces them with each other, before claiming that the chicken in Lucci's arms is actually the chicken that Jur was talking about. Jur is shocked and can't understand how the hell did Luck predict what she was coming to ask his help for. But Luck claims that it was just a coincidence and tells her about what happened a couple hours before, and how they saw the powers of the chicken firsthand when it completely demolished a vampire who was trying to run away. Jur immediately drops down to her knees in front of the chicken and claims that she will protect with her own life if the need arises. They then decide to come up with a plan of action. So Jur grabs a map and spreads it out on a table, before showing Luck the general location where the vampire high lord is hiding. She claims that the entire area is crawling with vampires, and just to get the general whereabouts was incredibly difficult. Chalice starts getting excited, and Lucci asks why the hell is she looking so happy. Chelly's replies that she is finally going to go on an actual adventure with Luck and see him fight firsthand against a truly strong monster. Luck looks at her and tells her that he is not going to take her with him as it's too dangerous. Chelly's tries to argue, claiming that Ja is going so she should be allowed to go as well. But Luck claims that Ja is a B-ranked adventurer, and her tribe's law states that she must fight these vampires. He claims that their situations are very different, but to make her happy, he replies that the main reason why he wants to leave her behind is so that she can protect the chicken when the need arrives. He claims that they can't really leave the chicken completely undefended, as even though the capital city has barriers for high-level vampires, the low-level ones like the one they fought earlier today could still infiltrate and try to harm the chicken, and they can't have that happening. To make sure that the chicken is safe, they need a first-class adventurer for its protection. And who better than Chelly's? She likes the sound of being a first-class adventurer, and immediately agrees, claiming that it can't be helped. A little while later, they hear the voice of a carriage pulling in and Chelly's immediately runs outside, knowing that it must be her dad. A little while later, Goran enters the room with a broad smile, claiming that Chelly's told him all that happened today. Luck greets him and claims that Chelly's is actually quite an outstanding warrior. Goran loves the sound of that, and starts thanking Luck for thinking that way. Meanwhile, Chelly's appears near the door with tear in her eyes, and immediately Goran starts freaking out, asking whether everything is alright. Chelly's nods, claiming that she feels super terrible for the way she has been behaving for the past couple of days, and claims that she thought that Luck was his illegitimate child, and that's why she was mad at him for hiding this. Goran wonders where the hell did she arrive on that conclusion, and asks whether she gave Luck a hard time because of it. But Chelly's makes a run for it, knowing that she did give Luck a really hard time in the beginning. Goran turns towards Luck and bows down to him, claiming that he must give his daughter a chance. He claims that he doesn't know where did she get the habit of coming to conclusions so quickly, but she is a nice person. Luck thinks about how Goran is the person who she must have gotten that habit from, as even when they were adventurers, Goran would always come to weird conclusions, and it was left up to Eric to deal with the repercussions. Goran worries about her daughter and wonders whether he should still put a stop at her being an adventurer. But Luck tells him not to worry about it, as he will keep an eye on her and make sure that everything is going well. Goran starts hugging Luck, thanking him for always being such a good friend. Suddenly, Chelly's enters the room and finds both her father and Luck in a compromising position, and without a second thought, she assumes the worst and leaves the room, telling them that she didn't see anything. They had to make a run after her, and it took her over an hour to understand the misunderstanding that had happened. They quickly move forward from that, as they don't have extra time and must focus on the problem at hand. Luck brings Goran up to speed, and even Goran agrees that a vampire High Lord could be really problematic to deal with, but they have no choice. He then asks whether the chicken could help them in the fight, but Lucci claims that the chicken's power only works when they are transforming. Moreover, Luck claims that it would be really difficult to deal with the vampires while making sure that no harm comes to the chicken. Suddenly, she speaks up and claims that the risk may be too high, since if the High Lord manages to drink the blood of the Seraphal, the powers that he would get would be so intense that a portal would open to the other dimension right at that very moment. This was news to all of them, including Lucci himself, who didn't know that could happen. Luck claims that they have all the reasons not to take the chicken into battle with them. In fact, they need to make sure that it stays perfectly safe. They immediately leave for the palace and arrive there quite late at night. The maids invite them in and seat them comfortably in the guest chamber with some tea while they wait for Eric. Goran claims that Eric employs more than 2,000 apprentices, mostly people who are underprivileged and have no way of making it out in the world without help. He claims that Eric believes that education is the most important aspect of any country, which makes him the opposite of Trump. Luck claims that Eric must be remarkable at being a king, and Goran nods in agreement. Soon enough, Eric himself walks through the door with two of his daughters who immediately greet Luck. The older daughter welcomed him to the palace, while the younger daughter had stars in her eyes, as she was finally seeing Luck, the saint who saved the world. She pushes a picture book forward and begs Luck to sign it. The book was based on Luck and the adventures that he has gone on. Luck is surprised, but she claims that every child in this country grows up listening to the tales of his heroism and have picture books about them. Even Lucci claims that they read books about him as well. With that, Goran tells Chelly's to play with the two young princesses in another room while they were touching the chicken. Soon the maid leads the three girls and the chicken down to a different chamber to play. while the adults talk. Eric claims that he knew that things must be really important if they were calling in so late in the night, and moreover, he couldn't have let the opportunity of letting his girls meet Luck pass by. Eric claims that the only reason why he has such beautiful daughters is thanks to Luck and his heroic last stand, as if he didn't do that, Eric wouldn't have found the love of his life and had such amazing kids with her. Goran pitches in as well, claiming that because of him, he was able to see Chellies grow up as well. Not only them, but the entire country is always praying to him and worshipping him for his sacrifice. Sometime later they sit down and discuss all the things that they know of, and Eric claims that Lucci and the chicken should be safe in the palace. That was a relief, as now Luck can focus his attention towards dealing with the vampires. His current strategy was to distract the vampire lords alongside Gia, while the rest of his tribe's men pile on the vampire High Lord and deal with him. Goran thinks that he should deal with the High Lord instead. Luck claims that he thought dealing with multiple vampire lords might be more difficult, but Gia claims that they can still manage the vampire lords, but there is no way they would be able to do anything against the High Lord. This forces Luck to think about alternate strategies. Meanwhile, Chellies was in the room while the princesses were playing with the chicken, when she notices that something is wrong and a portal opens up behind her. 3 lesser vampires come out of that portal, while the princesses try to run out of the door, but the door has been locked from the outside. Chellies tries to grab her sword, but realizes that she has left it behind. She immediately grabs a candlestick and vows not to let these vampires hurt anyone. The vampires attack, but she manages to strike it and push it back. The other 2 vampires try to charm her with their magical eyes, but she shuts her own eyes and rushes at them, stabbing one while clipping the wings of the other. The 3rd vampire tries to ignore her and go for the chicken, but Chellies returns back in time and bonks him on the back of his head. The vampires regroup and attack again. She manages to fend off the first 2 vampires, pushing them back, but the last one snaps her candlestick in 2, forcing her to throw it at the vampires and covering the girls to protect her. Thankfully, Luck appears at the last moment with a bang, knocking the vampires to the ground, and tells Chellies that she did an amazing job and now he will take care of the rest. A little while before that happened, Luck was sitting in the other room alongside Eric and Goran, discussing the game plan on how to deal with that issue. Eric claims that the most complicated thing when dealing with vampires is that they can control people with their hypnosis. While Eric and Goran are highly resistant to such charms, they can't send other adventurers or soldiers in the fray, as they will simply get charmed and will start fighting amongst each other, which will lead to mass casualty. She agrees. She claims that the beast people actually have an affinity against the vampires and can't be charmed, so they don't have to worry about anything. Lucci claims that he would have loved to join, but he wants to protect the chicken, so he would rather stay here. Just then, Luck felt like something was wrong, and he exploded outside the window and uses an aerial platform to jump back into the other room, reaching just in time to protect Chellies from the vampire. He tells Chellies that she has done an excellent job protecting everyone, but now he will handle everything. The vampires try to use their magic vision to charm Luck as well, but he is too resistant and it won't work on him. He simply traps them in a mana ball and slowly implodes it into a high temperature implosion that completely eliminates them from existence. Chellies is shocked to see that the vampires who were giving her a hard time just now were demolished within a blink of an eye. And that's when she realizes how extremely powerful Luck is. Just then, the door behind them is kicked open as Goran and Eric rush in, worried about the kids, and Eric immediately hugs her daughters, thankful that they are safe. His daughters claim that Chellies is the one who saved them, and Eric immediately turns towards Chellies, thanking her for saving his daughters, and even Luck tells her to own it, as she is the one who kept the vampires at bay till Luck managed to come. Just then, the silver goblet in the middle of the table starts glowing again, and Chellies claims that more vampires are coming. Luck decides to play the game, and uses the magic that he learned from Lucci to create an illusion that the room was empty, and he transformed himself as a vampire High Lord. The vampires that came in the room immediately bow down to him, claiming that the 6th Lord sent them here to investigate what happened to the vampires who came here before. They call Luck the 8th High Lord, and Luck realizes that the 6th Lord outranks him, so he uses his mind and tells the vampires that the vampire overlord himself has given him a job, and the 3 vampires who came before were being rude to him, so he killed them. With that, Luck asks the 2 vampires whether that teleportation circle will lead him directly to the 6th Lord so he could talk to him face to face, and the vampires nod in agreement. Immediately after that, Luck takes out his sword and ends both of the vampires in an instant, asking Chellies whether that goblet was inside the room to begin with. Chellies replies that the maid brought the goblet with some sweets in it, and he immediately realizes that the palace has been compromised and people who have been charmed by the vampires are currently inside the palace. Goran turns towards Eric, asking whether the palace is not one of the most well-guarded places in the city, and Eric replies that he doesn't know how this is possible. Luck surmises that an already finished teleportation circle must have been brought in the room by the maid who has been charmed by the vampires. Luck claims that they need to arrest the maid as soon as possible, but Chalice doesn't like that and runs out of the room. Luck tells Ye to follow her and tells Eric to take the princesses somewhere safe. With that, he turns towards Goran and tells him to guard the chicken as there is no one else who can be trusted with that. Luck then tells Goran that he is going through that magic circle to deal with the 6th High Lord and tells Goran to destroy the circle as soon as he is through it. Goran tries to argue, but Luck already jumped in the circle and got teleported to an underground lair. He kicks down the door to a throne room and immediately slays down 2 vampires who try to attack him. 2 more try to attack, but before they could reach him, the 6th Lord used his own magical abilities to fire a magic attack at Luck, while the 2 cronies are caught in the middle dying from friendly fire. Luck escapes scot-free and claims that the 6th Lord must be a total scumbag to kill his own underlings. The 4-eyed freak takes out his sword and rushes at Luck as their swords clash. The fight was brief as 4 Eyes thought that it would be an easy win, but soon he realizes that the cut that Luck gave him on his face is not healing, and during that, Luck slices him in half. He walks up to the vampire lying on the ground confused, and asks him to reveal whatever information he has on the vampires above him. But the 4-eyed idiot refuses and gets a sword to his face for his troubles. The medallion that is left behind is also shattered, releasing all the negative aura that was inside of it. He then walks to one of the rooms where he finds the bones of all the people that the vampire killed and apologizes to them for not being able to save them. A little while later, he returns back to the city, where he finds Eric, Goran with a small party of soldiers waiting for trouble. He tells the others that he has defeated all the vampires at the lair, but he was too late as the village nearby was already completely demolished by the vampires. Goran claims that he is responsible for that as the guildmaster and will take care to give every villager a proper funeral. With that, they go back inside the palace and determine that the palace is no longer safe for the chicken to hide, as 30 guards vanished into dust as soon as the 6th Lord was killed, which means that it's not very difficult to infiltrate the castle. Thankfully, the maid was just charmed and not converted into a vampire, so there's still a chance of getting her back to normal, but till then, she will have to stay a prisoner. Luck tells the others that he has decided that he is going to kill the Vampire King to end it all, and just then, Eric claims that they are going to do it together. Luck is confused, claiming that Eric is the king, but Eric claims that he has a brother who can inherit the throne, but there is only one hero born in a century, so he must act like a hero. Goran claims that he will also take part as anyone can be a guildmaster, but no one can be as good of a warrior as him. Luck gets overjoyed that he could be a party of his old party once again. Chalice begs him to take her with them, but Goran refuses outright, claiming that she would just get in their way. Luck decides to give her another job to make her feel better. He tells Goran to give her one of the swords that he used to have as their fighting style is extremely similar, and having a longer sword would help her. He then tells Chalice that he wants her to defend the princess and the castle. Chalice gets excited about that, and promises that she won't fail. Just as Luck thought, a bunch of vampire cronies ended up attacking the castle, but armed with the new tips that Luck gave her, Chalice manages to strike the vampires down before they could ever use anything on her. She starts chopping down the vampires one after the next, while the vampires decide to attack Lucci to get the chicken, but Lucci bamboozles them by revealing that the cage doesn't even have the chicken, and suddenly a huge fiery phoenix emerges from the cage and slams the vampires into dirt. By the time the sun sets, Luck, Goran, and Eric reach near the Vampire King's base camp, while the chicken is hidden inside Luck's satchel. Suddenly, a shadow appears out of the bushes and bows down in front of them, claiming that they have been waiting for them. Je recognizes the guy as a Beast Clan chief. Eric thanks the Beastman for his help and tells him to draw the lower-level vampires away from the lair while they attack the High Lords inside. The Beastman nods and disappears while Luck tosses the sword that he got from the 6th Lord to Je. He claims that Goran has a fire sword, Eric has a divine sword, and he himself has the Demon Lord's own sword. So it's only fitting that Je gets a nice sword to fight the stronger vampires with. Je is overjoyed and vows to watch their backs. With that, they walk towards what looked like a landslide, but Luck realizes that this is the entrance to the lair and uses his own magic to reveal the true entrance which was hidden. After that, they all enter the lair, but Goran alone slices down vampires left and right, claiming that he needs to warm up. while Eric claims that he wants to get some vampires for himself as well. Ja is amazed to see the power of the heroes' party, but as they move forward, over 30 High Lords block their exit, forcing them into a fight. Luck realizes that it's going to take a good amount of time to deal with these High Lords, especially when there are so many of them, which might give the Vampire King a chance to escape. But Eric and Goran walk forward and tell Luck to deal with the Vampire King. While they deal with these lords, Luck doesn't want to leave them as 30 might be too many. But Eric tells him not to worry, as this is a repayment for what he did for them all those years ago. Luck immediately takes Ja and bolts out of there, trusting his friends, and kicks through the door to enter the Vampire King's room. He finds the Vampire King sitting on a throne, while something is trapped in a cage behind him. Before Ja could even blink, the Vampire King attacks them. But Luck is equally quick and blocks the attack. Ja realizes how incredibly strong the Vampire King is, while he seems impressed by Luck's speed. Luck decides to go on the offensive this time, but the Vampire King blocks his attack with his magic shield. But to his surprise, the magic shield gives way and the Vampire King actually gets a scratch. He laughs at that, enjoying the fight when Ja attacks, and he dodges out of the way easily. But that gives Luck the opportunity to cut his left hand completely. The Vampire King laughs, claiming that the sword that Luck has is incredibly strong, but it's not going to be enough. To their surprise, the Vampire King actually regenerates his hand, which shouldn't have been possible once cut with the Demon King's sword. That's when Luck realizes that the battle isn't going to be easy, and he wonders whether they made a huge mistake. Back outside, Goran and Eric are completely destroying any and all vampires that are coming towards them. Goran uses his flaming sword to carve a path through the vampires, killing one after the other, while Eric casually moves around as if out on a stroll as he takes down vampires left and right. He tells Goran to take it easy and not to get too excited at the sight of enemies, and make sure he is always aware of his surroundings. But Goran claims that now Eric is the king as well as the hero, and as a warrior it's Goran's job to protect the king at all cost. And that's what he will do. Before Eric could even respond, a female vampire appeared near Eric and started touching his face, claiming that she has never seen a king up close. Eric pushes her away, telling her not to be so rude, when suddenly the vampire clones itself into two. Eric casually tells her that 2 clones won't be enough to deal with him. But to his surprise, another clone appears behind him, and he realizes that he has messed up. The clone behind him grabs his neck and bites, drawing blood as she licks her lips, claiming that now Eric will be one of them. Goran screams at Eric to get back, but before he could help, another vampire attacks him, forcing him to focus on his own fight. The 3 vampires start surrounding Eric, waiting for him to turn into a vampire himself. But to their surprise, Eric simply slashes one of them, beheading her immediately, which scares them as they wonder what went wrong. He tells the ladies that he is not a simp and is already married, so they should stay back. With that, he cuts the other vampire in half, while the last vampire is shocked, confused as to how Eric managed to stand their bite. Eric explains that he has the hero's blood coursing through his vein, which makes him incredibly resistant to poison, charms, and mental magic. Before the vampire could respond, Eric slashes her in half as well. Back in the throne room, Luck pushes the attack on the Vampire King, forcing him back as he tries to block all the attacks. But Luck realizes that the Vampire King has definitely grown slower and his blocks are not as effective anymore. He thinks it must be because of the injured hand, so he decides to go for the killing blow, and manages to bamboozle the Vampire King, and attacks him with his Drain Touch spell, sucking out the mana that the vampire had. With that out of the way, Luck simply slashes the vampire into 2 pieces, but realizes that the Vampire King is trying to get away by converting into a bunch of bats. Thankfully, the chicken ends up crowing at the right time, and his transformation is stopped in the middle, forcing him to stand and face Luck. The Vampire King realizes that Luck has brought the chicken with him, and suddenly his frown turns into a smile as he laughs, claiming that Luck is stupid to bring the chicken to his lair, and now the dark gods will take that sacrifice. Luck is confused about what he means, when suddenly a medallion appears in the vampire's mouth, and before Luck could do anything, the vampire chomps on it, breaking it in half, and suddenly both Luck and Ja feel an immense pressure weighing them down, forcing them to their knees. Luck immediately realizes that this seems to be something like the divine blessing that some adventurers receive from the gods, and the vampire nods in agreement, claiming that this is the divine blessing given to him by the dark gods. He claims that just like how the capital is surrounded by an energy barrier, where higher level vampires can't move, similarly now the area is surrounded by an energy barrier, and someone as strong as Luck shouldn't be able to move now. With that, the Vampire King demands Luck to hand over the chicken so that he can make some chicken tikka masala, But Luck refuses to do so and uses a spell on himself, which manages to move him out of the way. The Vampire King is surprised at the fact that Luck is still moving and tries to attack him. But Luck uses a spell to block the attack, while using his marionette spell, which can help him control his own body like a puppet. He runs around trying to look for the core that is producing this energy barrier, but the vampire realizes that and tries to stop him. Using that to her advantage, she jumps in and manages to land a scratch on his cheek, forcing him to use his energy to blast her across the room. But that gives Luck the chance to destroy the core, and he jumps to smash it. But the Vampire King is too fast, and he appears in front of him, grabbing his sword before it could touch the core. Luck continues trying to push through, but the vampire simply laughs, claiming that he would never succeed this way, as while he is becoming weaker and weaker, his own powers are expanding by the second. Suddenly, the vampire feels like something has gone wrong. He notices that the sword seems to be cutting into his hand now, and he turns around to see that there is a localized barrier on top of the core, limiting its powers. Unbeknownst to him, priests from the capital city gathered around in the castle, and together they managed to draw the divine powers of the god to help the hero's party. Once that was done, Luck barely had any trouble, landing 3 slashes on the Vampire King, completely cutting him apart before destroying the core as well. The vampire realizes that he is lost and tries to run away, but the chicken crows once again as the sun rises, stopping the transformation, and the vampire turns to ashes right in front of their eyes, getting destroyed. With that, he makes sure that she was alright and thanks her for the assist, while she tells him not to worry about it, as without him, she would have been long dead. Soon after, their eyes fall on the cage in the back of the room. They walk towards it, and Luck notices that a wolf is sleeping inside the cage. She responds that it seems to be a sacred beast, claiming that they are related to the beast folk, and the vampire must have brought him here to transform it into one of its familiars. He opens the cage to let the wolf out, but the wolf didn't wake up, so Luck uses his magic to wake it up. The moment it opens its eyes though, the wolf jumps on Luck to try and attack him, while Luck uses his magic shield to try and get away. Ja immediately jumps into action and tells the wolf that everything is alright now, and that the vampires have been defeated so no one is going to hurt him. The moment he hears this, the wolf calms down and backs off, looking sheepishly at Luck as if ashamed of his actions. Luck smiles and tells the wolf that he is free to do whatever he wants and will be safe. The wolf starts running around the room out of joy, and Luck realizes that he must have been really scared before. With everything sorted, they move out of the room and find Eric and Goran waiting for them outside, claiming that all the vampires have been dealt with outside as well. Luck tells Eric that the priests back at the castle helped him contain the core of the Vampire King, and Eric responds that the priests were led by his wife. Luck tells him to thank her from his side, and with that they walk outside the cave system. The moment they come outside into the bright sunlight, they find themselves in front of all the beast folk standing and waiting for them. They immediately erupt in a cheer, glad to see that the heroes came out alive. While Eric walked forward, and just like a proper king, he delivered a speech, talking about how the victory is theirs just because of all the support they got from the beast folk, as without them, they wouldn't have been able to deal with the vampires inside. But from now on the beast folk won't have to worry about the vampires, as they have defeated the Vampire King once and for all. The beast folk erupt into a cheer, and the energy is so infectious that even the heroes can't seem to hold themselves back. While Luck thinks about how for 10 long years he had to fight all alone, and he realizes how badly he missed having someone to watch his back. A little while later they begin their journey back towards the capital city, and on the way, Goran notices that the wolf seems to be following them. He tells Luck about it, and Luck turns around and walks near the wolf, before telling him that he can go anywhere he wants to as he is now free. But the wolf stays there, and she replies that the wolf wants to follow Luck. Luck is not too thrilled considering how dangerous his job can get, but even Eric claims that he should keep the wolf as both of them don't have their own families. Hearing that, Luck decides to take the wolf on as his pet, and together they all make their way back into the city. They immediately go to the house where Eric kept both the princesses for safekeeping, and they are overjoyed to see their father, claiming that Chelis and Lucci protected them. Luck notices a bunch of gems beside Chelis, and he walks up and counts them, realizing that the two novices together managed to take down 15 vampires, which is incredible. Eric and Goran are shocked. But what's even more shocking is that Luck discovers 2 special gem cores that belong to arch-vampires who are much stronger than the usual ones, and he can't believe that Chelis managed to take them down as well. Goran is so happy that he can't control his tears of happiness, while Luck praises Chelis and Lucci for their incredible work. The thing which is a little concerning though is the fact that 2 arch-vampires managed to infiltrate the city, which could have been really bad if Chellies didn't destroy them. Eric claims they must rethink their city's defenses, and suddenly Luck gets an idea. He turns towards Eric and claims that they should start employing the beast folk into the royal guards, as they can't be turned or charmed, and they are excellent fighters. Eric thinks that is a great idea, and Ja herself is overjoyed, claiming that it would be a great honor for the beast folk to serve as the royal guards. With that, Eric turns towards Luck, asking what he wants as his own reward. Luck thinks for a bit, and then looks around at the wolf and Lucci. He grabs them both, claiming that since his family has increased in number, he would love to get a house. But obviously Eric gives him a huge mansion instead of a small house. Luck is shocked to see the huge manor. They enter inside, and the house is beautifully designed, perfect for someone very high ranking in the royal court. Luck wonders how difficult it would be to clean the house, but Lucci immediately claims that he won't have to worry about that, as he would deal with that. Chellies and Ja both claim that they would do their part as well. And with that, they all start selecting their rooms. Lucci chooses a room first, followed by Chellies, who claims a room for herself, which is confusing for Luck since she already has a house. Once outside, Luck talks to Goran, who claims that this manor is more like a fortress with a watchtower itself, and Luck decides that he likes the sound of that, and will take the tower for his own room. Later that night, while all of them were fast asleep, Lucci wakes Luck up, claiming that he heard some weird noises coming from the basement. Luck immediately goes with him to check, and once he arrives at the basement, he realizes that Lucci wasn't imagining things, as he also hears the voice of a girl whimpering about how much it hurts her. Lucci is creeped out by the faint whimpers, and he asks Luck if this can be an undead that they are dealing with. Luck replies that it is possible, and then calmly opens the door. Lucci volunteers to go in first to provide light using a spell, and he soon discovers a body hanging upside down from the roof. He screams his lungs out and clings to Luck, saying that there is a ghost in the building, but Luck asks him to calm down and give him the light again. As Lucci summons the light again, he finds that there is a girl hanging down from the roof, and she is alive and in pain. The redhead says that her body is hurting a lot and asks Luck to rescue her. Luck takes her out of the noose that her foot got stuck in, and the girl thanks him for saving her life. He asks her what is she even doing here, and before she gets the chance to answer the question, Lucci says that she must be a thief and they need to hand her over to the authorities. Luck says that they should at least hear the girl's story first, and Lucci can't argue with him. Luck asks the redhead her name, and she replies that she is Milka. Luck introduces himself, Lucci, and the chicken before asking Mil what she was up to. She apologizes and tells him that she thought that this place was abandoned, so she was using it to hang out. Luck asks her if she doesn't have a house, and Mil replies that her parents died a long time ago, and then her grandfather raised her, but he also kicked the bucket a few months ago, and ever since then, this mansion has been her hideout. While Lucci lights the lantern and finds half-eaten pears on the ground, Luck asks Mil what happened to the house she used to live in. She replies that her grandfather got tricked into taking a debt on the house, so when he died, the loan sharks took it. Luck asks if she ran away because she feared that the loan sharks would sell her off as a slave, but she smiles and replies that it wasn't one of her fears. Lucci explains that King Eric banned slave trade almost a decade ago, and Luck is proud of his friend. Mil says that since she had no place to go to, she came here, but she didn't expect any traps here. Luck asks how did she even get to the basement in the first place, and Mil replies that this place is connected to the sewers. She points out the hidden door under the floor, and Luck realizes that he was careless because he didn't check for hidden doors and traps when he received this house. However, he is also curious about why this mansion needed a secret passageway, and he decides to check it out himself. Lucci says he will join him, and Mil is glad to show them the way. They head down the stairs and find that the secret passageway is quite spacious and sturdy. Luck says that usually only the royal family builds such secret passageways to escape in case of an emergency, but he doesn't understand why this one was made. Just then, Mil points out to a section of the wall that has collapsed and says that is where she came from. She claims that she thought she would have to live in the sewers for the rest of her life, but she was lucky and found the broken wall that brought her here. Luck checks it and finds that the hole looks completely natural. He decides to fill it later because the passage stretches to a great distance in front of them, and he wants to check out what is on the other side. Suddenly, Mil asks if she can sleep in the passageway if he doesn't mind, and Luck is shocked to hear that. Mil says that since he is not using the passageway right now, she will be comfortable here. Luck tells her that they have to see what is on the other side of the passageway before coming to any conclusion. Mill agrees and starts leading the way again, but Luck tells her to stop because there might be traps. Mill says that is why she is going first, but Luck tells her he will lead the way, and she will be in the center. Mill doesn't understand why Luck would suggest such a formation because she is a freeloader, and she just wanted to help him by triggering any traps on their way. Luck pats her head and asks if he looks like a jerk who will use a kid as a shield. Mill tells him that that is what rich people do, but Luck says he is not one of them, and on top of that, he assures her that he won't get caught up in any traps because he is a veteran adventurer. They soon reach a dead end, but Luck and Lucci can sense magic energy coming from the other side of the wall. Luck touches the wall and finds a powerful protection spell is cast on it, and he feels that there might be a treasure that the spell is protecting. Mill is excited to hear about treasure, and Luck says that since they came here, they might as well see what is on the other side. He analyzes the protection spell cast on the wall and quickly figures out a way to undo it, impressing Lucci, who says that the spell was very complex. Luck simply dispels it, and the wall crumbles, opening the way to a luxurious room. Mill asks if she can sleep here because this house seems unoccupied, but Luck says that she can't do that because it is illegal. Just then, they hear the door unlock and Lucci tells both Mill and Luck to hide behind a couch. However, when they hear the voice of the person who came to check up on the commotion, Luck gets up and greets him. It is Eric himself who came to check what is happening, and he is surprised to see Luck here. Luck asks what is the king doing here because it should be the soldiers who investigate such disturbances. Eric replies that his chambers are just next to this room, so he decided to see it for himself. He still wants to know what Luck is doing here. But before giving him an answer, Luck calls out his friends. Eric asks him who is the redhead with him, and Luck puts his hand on Mill's head as he introduces her. After that, they sit down and Luck tells Eric the entire story of how they ended up here. Eric is a little embarrassed on hearing this because he knows the exact reason the mansion is connected to the royal palace. He explains that his grandfather had an affair with a widowed baroness back in the day, and he bought the mansion for her. He must have created the secret passageway so that they could meet up every night to Netflix and chill. The Baron's family line died out because he had no children, and the only kid the Baroness had with Eric's grandpa was adopted by another noble. Luck remembers Eric's uncle and realizes that he must be the same guy. He then asks Eric what should they do about the passageway, and he says that he has no problem since it connects to Luck's house. However, he doesn't want it to be connected to the sewers, and Luck says he can easily repair that hole. After that, they go back to the passageway and Luck repairs the hole in the wall. Just as he does that, Mill collapses nearby and falls asleep. Luck realizes that she must have been exhausted after the events of the night, and he lifts her on his back. Suddenly, Lucci asks him if he can let Mill stay at the mansion because the basement is not fit for staying and the fruits she had were not ripe enough to eat. Luck replies that he planned to let her stay with them from the start, and Lucci is really happy to hear that. The next morning, Mill wakes up in a bed, and she wonders how she got here. She gets out of the room and looks around to see that she is inside the mansion. As she is walking around, she suddenly feels hungry, but the very next moment, the wolf appears in front of her, and Mill screams, waking Luck up. Luck finds the wolf sitting on top of Mill, who feels that she is going to be eaten. Luck just laughs on seeing this because he realizes that the wolf thought he caught a thief. He calls it a good boy and tells it to let Mill go, and she is still not sure about what just happened here. Ja and Chellies wake up on hearing the commotion, and Lucci also comes out of his room. Luck introduces them to Mill, saying that she is going to live with them from now on. Mill takes a moment to register that sentence in her mind, and she asks Luck if he is sure about that. Everyone is happy to welcome her, and Luck says that he plans to leave Mill in charge of the household chores. She is excited to take up that offer, and Luck tells her to ask Lucci if she needs any help. With that, they go to have breakfast, and Mill starts chugging the food like she has not eaten in months. Goran is there too, and he is surprised that Luck adopted another kid. He then asks Luck what he plans to do about the secret passageway, and he replies that he will reinforce the entire passageway and install a door in the royal palace because it will be a good escape route in case of an emergency. Suddenly, she asks why would the Baroness set up a trap in the basement because only the previous king used to come here. Luck says that the trap was to stop anyone else from coming, like the former king's wife. Ja understands how it works now, and in the meantime, Chellies is spoiling Mill, who finds everything delicious. Mill calls her Big Sis Chellies, and that is the exact phrasing she needed to win her heart. After breakfast, Goran and Ja decide to head to the guild, while Mill asks Lucci where do they keep the cleaning supplies. Lucci tells her that they are yet to buy that stuff because they just moved in. Luck says that since he has to buy things to repair the wall anyway, he will buy other supplies as well. Mill and Chellies say they will come with him, and Luck leaves the house to Lucci for the time being. They go to the market and Chellies takes Luck to a stone shop. He asks Mill to wait outside with the wolf while he buys some stones, but she gets bored after a couple minutes. She suddenly notices a tool shop nearby and tells the wolf to wait for a bit while she buys some items. She begins looking through brooms and brushes in the tool store, when suddenly, a man arrives there. Soon after that, Luck and Chellies return from the stone store and they ask the wolf where Mill is. The wolf acts ashamed because he slept once he was alone, and they immediately check out the tool store to find Mill. Chellies learns from the shopkeeper that some nasty guys took Mill away and Luck immediately orders the wolf to track her. Turns out, the guys who kidnapped Mill were the loan sharks that took her house, and they tell her that she is going to come with them to repay the rest of the loan. Mill says that they already have the house and she doesn't have to pay them back. The thugs tell her that her house is not worth much, and they will get what they want from her. Just then, Luck arrives there and tells the thugs to let the girl go because he is her guardian. The leader of the thugs asks him to pay her debts because if he can't, they will make Mill work for them her entire life. Luck doesn't waste a single second in kicking the Baldy's jaw, and his lackeys rush in to help him. Luck knocks them both out with one hit, and Mill runs to Chellies, who says they need to call the cops immediately. However, Luck has a better plan. He grabs the Baldy and casts an illusion on him that makes him see Luck as a scary old moneylender, who asks him what is a bottom feeder like him doing here. The Baldy wets his pants on seeing the scary dude in front of him, and he says that he was doing a little work for Gavino, a moneylender who operates in the slums. Luck asks him what were they planning to do with Mill, and Baldy replies that they were going to sell her as a slave on the black market. He explains that Gavino used to be a slave trader, so he has got his connections, and Luck knocks him out after hearing that. With that, he calls the cops and tells them everything that Baldy confessed. The guards are taken aback to hear this because Gavino is actually a very rich and powerful man with a private army and deep connections with powerful nobles. He says that whenever they tried to gather evidence against Gavino in the past, it all disappeared before they could make a case. At the same time, Gavino learns that his lackeys got into a fight with some adventurers and got arrested. His assistant tells him that this is very bad timing because they have a very big deal coming up. Gavino orders him to move their goods someplace safe because he might buy his way out when the guards are involved, but the Adventurer Guild always causes troubles because of Gorin. However, he is prepared for them too this time because he has hired a pair of mercenaries to take care of the adventurers. At night, Gavino moves a bunch of kids from his mansion into a carriage, but just then Luck arrives there and says that he was here just to complain about what happened to Mill, but he has caught the moneylender red-handed. Gavino asks who the hell is he, and Luck proudly declares that he is an F-rank adventurer. Gavino laughs at him and sends his guards to take him down, but Luck makes them bite the dust in no time. This forces the two mercenaries to step forward, and they tell Luck that he won't be able to win against them because they are B-rank. Well, Chellies and G arrive there just then and tell Luck to leave these two morons to them because he doesn't need to waste his time with the likes of them. The mercenaries laugh on hearing that even F-rank adventurers have students these days, and they say that they won't go easy on them just because they are girls. She replies that it is fine by them because they like it rough anyway. The mercenaries dash towards them as soon as they hear this, and the girls rush ahead too, while Luck tells them to have fun. The one-eyed guy with broken teeth goes towards Chellies and swings his sword down just a little bit to trick her with a feint. He thinks she will fall for it and then attacks from the side. But to his surprise, Chellies blocks his attack perfectly. Not just that, she immediately goes on the offensive and starts pushing him back. The mercenary feels the weight behind each strike and wonders how can a girl have this much strength. Within a minute, his arms go numb from all the sword clashes, and Chellies asks him what happened to all the big talk about not holding back. He asks her if she is really an F rank, and in response, Chellies asks if he is a B rank, because he is way weaker than the lesser vampires she has fought. Meanwhile, Ja is just dodging the attacks of the samurai wannabe, who gets frustrated by her and asks her to fight back. Ja decides to humor him and starts dishing out powerful blows one after the other. The mercenary can't keep up with her attacks and starts taking damage, both physically and mentally. Gavino yells at the mercenaries from behind, asking why the hell are they struggling so much against the girls. The swordsman tells him to shut up right before Ja slashes his leg and knocks him down with a kick to his gut. She points his sword at him, and the trembling swordsman asks her who the hell is she. Ja introduces herself as a beastman warrior and vampire hunter, and that comes as a shock for the mercenary. He says that she lied to him because she is clearly not an F rank, and she asks him when did she say she was an F rank. However, she can confirm that Chellies is an F rank, but that's just because she only started out her adventuring career. Even then, she easily defeats the one-eyed guy facing her, and tells him to work harder if he wants to remain a B rank. That pushes Gavino to take some drastic actions, and he runs towards the kidnapped boys and girls to use them as hostages. However, Luck catches up to him in no time and twists the knife out of his hand. He calls him the worst piece of trash he has ever seen, and then knocks the air out of his lungs with a punch to his gut. Luck tells Gavino that this one was for swindling Mill, and then knocks out his teeth with the next punch. At the same time, the girls go to rescue the children, and Gavino's guards try to run away, but the wolf is blocking their exit. They realize there is no way out of the situation and surrender. But Gavino has not given up yet. He uses his status as his final weapon and tells Luck that he doesn't know who he is messing with. He swears that he will erase Luck and his friends from this world, but Luck starts removing his earwax like an uncivilized barbarian. He tells Gavino to keep yelling on his way to prison, and just then, the soldiers arrive there as he had arranged. They are shocked to see that Luck and his 2 students managed to defeat Gavino's entire gang. Luck says that he could not have done it alone, and most of the credit goes to the girls, who are effectively as strong as a B-rank adventurer. Chellies is confused because she doesn't want credit, but then she realizes that it is Luck's way to keep his cover, and she decides to play along. Meanwhile, Gavino tells the soldiers to arrest Luck for attacking him, but when he asks him to explain why the children are tied up, he falls speechless. The captain of the guards tells his soldiers to search Gavino's mansion for anything illegal. He tells Gavino that he is under arrest for crimes that would take all night if he starts listing them. And meanwhile, Luck starts freeing the children from their shackles. Chellies and Ja comfort the kids, telling them that Gavino will pay for his crimes. Mill says that both of them are really strong, and the guild receptionist praises Luck for his actions. She says that she will let the guildmaster know about his heroic deeds, and he asks her to look after the rescued kids until they find them a permanent home. He then decides to help the guards in investigating the mansion, but the children want to thank him properly before that. They ask for his name, and Luck introduces himself as a passing F-rank adventurer. However, no one notices a bat hanging nearby suspiciously, and it leaves the place as soon as Luck goes inside the mansion. Inside, Gavino keeps resisting while threatening the guards that his backers won't stay silent after this incident. The guards ignore him and find tons of gold bricks along with proof of his shady activities. While they confront Gavino about it, the wolf smells something strange coming from a box. Gavino panics as he sees the guards getting interested in the box, and he says that there is nothing inside. But since no one is going to believe him, Luck and the captain of the guards go to check out the box. The captain asks Gavino for the key, and he replies that there is none, which makes Luck realize that the box is locked with magic. He quickly opens it with a spell and finds a loaf of meat inside that doesn't look like a big deal. However, the wolf starts drooling as soon as he sees the meat, and Gavino runs to claim it. The wolf scares him while the guard captain says that this is surely outlawed ham. Luck asks him what he meant by outlawed ham because last time he checked vegans weren't in power. She explains that it is called ham only because it looks like it, but in reality, it is the meat of a sacred beast like a unicorn or Pegasus. That is why the wolf is drooling so hard on seeing it. Just says that the sacred beast is killed violently to obtain this flesh, and because of that, it is filled with a lot of hatred and rage, which makes it a valuable item in black magic. Chellies asks what is it used for, and just says that she has heard it can be used to take over another person's mind or summon demons. She says that even possessing this is a serious crime, and Luck concludes that Gavino is going to spend the rest of his life in prison. He is shocked to hear this even after knowing the crimes he has committed, so Luck explains to him like he is 5. He tells Gavino that since he has the outlawed ham, his noble buddies won't want to do anything with him because that would put them at risk. That means no one is coming to save him, and he is going to live the rest of his life behind bars. Once that is done, Luck praises the wolf for finding something so important, and he is happy, but as soon as the guard captain says he will take the outlaw into his custody, his day is ruined because the wolf just wanted to eat some forbidden meat. The guards then take Gavino and his men away while Luck and his friends stay behind. Luck starts thinking that no matter how big of a moneylender Gavino was, he couldn't have the outlawed ham with him for no reason. He believes that someone is pulling the strings behind the scenes, but there is no way to prove that right now. Meanwhile, the bat that was spying on Luck flies back to its master's house, who is a vampire lord, and absorbs the bat to learn everything it saw and heard. He finds out about Luck and takes an interest in the F-rank adventurer. After that, Luck and his friends return home, where Lucci has been worried sick about him. He says that they took too long to return, and Luck says that a lot of side quests piled up and they ended up taking down a shady moneylender on their simple quest to buy some supplies. Lucci looks around and sees that Chellies is not with them, and Luck explains that she went back to her house for something. She returns just then with a handbag, and Luck asks if she went back to get some clothes. She affirms, and then says that she needs to go back to her room and do some cleaning before taking a bath. Mill stops her and says that cleaning is her job, and Chellies says that she will help so they can do it together. Mill is a bit taken aback because she is perfectly capable of cleaning the room herself, but Chellies insists that together they will be able to do it faster and better. Mill accepts her decision and they go to the room together, while Luck decides to repair the underground tunnel. He takes Lucci and Ji with him and soon finds the spot where Mill entered from. He dispels the repair spell he cast on it last night, and it immediately crumbles down. After that, Luck fixes the wall the old-fashioned way, and once he is done showing his expertise in construction work, after that, he goes to the entrance that leads to the palace, and Ja asks if there is really an entrance here because it looks like a plain old solid wall to him. Luck says that if she can't spot the difference, then he did a good job, but he needs to make sure that there is an exit here that can only be unlocked by a chosen few. He is about to remove the spells on the entrance, but Ja asks if he is sure about entering the palace at night. Luck tells her that they went inside last night too, and he clearly told the king that he would come back to fix things permanently. With that, Luck dispels the spells on the wall, but just as he is about to break it down, a fist tears through the wall and almost hits him. Luck panics because of this jump scare, but then he hears the familiar voice of a woman who punched through the wall because she heard voices coming from the other side. Luck peeks through the hole she made to greet her, and she is surprised to see him. She asks what the hell is he doing here so late, and Luck says that he will tell her the full story after he tears down the wall. She understands, and once Luck enters the palace side, the woman is really happy to learn that he is alive, because this is the first time she has seen him since he went to the demon realm. Lucci asks Luck who this woman is, and he says that she is Lefi, their party's healer, and right now, she is Eric's wife. Lucci and Ja freak out on learning that Lefi is the queen, and they immediately fall to their knees. Lefi is annoyed by that and says that this is why she doesn't like being introduced as the queen, because everyone gets super formal after that. She then tells Luck that she has heard everything about him and his young friends from Eric. Luck asks what kind of queen punches through a wall, and Lefi says that it is faster than playing knock knock. Luck laughs, saying that she is still the same, and then asks what is she doing here. Lefi says that Eric told her not to go to this room today, which sounded sus, so she camped here all day. Just then, Eric comes running and goes straight to Luck, asking what took him so long. Lefi tells them that the time to hide secrets from her is over and she wants to know everything. Eric nervously tries to explain the secret passageway that leads to the mistress's house, but Luck realizes he is making things worse for himself, so he explains how he changed names and became an F-ranked adventurer, and recently bought Eric's grandpa's sidechick's house. Lefi is relieved to hear the entire story, and while she is lecturing Eric about keeping secrets, Luck fixes the wall and puts a mithril shield there. He says that outsiders will only see a decorative shield, but it is the secret mechanism to go to the secret passage. He asks Eric who can use it, and he says that he and his family should be able to use it. Luck calls Eric's daughters and makes all of them register their magic signatures on the crest so that only they can open it. Eric tells Luck to register himself too, so he does that before opening the secret door. But he gets a jump scare because Goran is standing right in front of the door. He says that he came to the mansion, but Chellies told him Luck was in the secret passageway, so he came here. Luck says that the timing is just right and makes Goran register on the secret passageway as well. Suddenly, Lefi remarks that it has been 10 years since their party came together. They share a few moments living the nostalgia of their adventures, and then Goran thanks Luck for arresting Gavino. Eric asks what are they talking about, and Lefi senses that a long discussion is about to follow, so she brews some tea and then takes her daughters away so that everyone else can have a discussion in peace. Before leaving, she welcomes Levi back to this world, and he thanks her for saving his life with the divine barrier the other day when he was cornered by the vampire High Lord. After that, Luck tells Eric everything about Gavino and the outlawed ham. He wonders what he was using it for, and Eric gives him top secret intel, saying that the arch-vampires who attacked the palace the other day had black magic mojo that allowed them to neutralize the divine barrier. Luck fears that with a mojo, even a vampire lord could enter the capital, and Eric fears that it has already happened and a vampire lord was behind Gavino. Everyone is worried on hearing this, and Eric asks Luck to investigate the matter because nobles are most certainly involved, and he wants the investigation to be done as quietly as possible. After that, Luck and his friends return home to see Mill wearing a pretty dress, and Luck fails to recognize her at first. Chelly's proudly reveals that her childhood clothes fit Mill perfectly, but she is still nervous that she is not good enough for them. Luck and everyone else tells her that she looks really cute in the dress, and she gets really shy and flustered on hearing that because no one has ever told her she looks cute before. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.